It is 6:30 in the morning, 7 in the morning.
I've woken up
This man
at 5
had to wake up
a.m.
at 6:30 a.m. to record a damn interview. You're the only person I would ever agree to do this for.
It's not even sunrise. But yeah. So, hi Ananya.
Hi.
Welcome to Talking to the Moon.
Yes. Thank you.
I already told you about my show, and you're one of my esteemed guests.
Oh.
Thank you also for inaugurating my show on LinkedIn, formally and informally. And speaking about LinkedIn, that is how I first encountered you.
Yes, you found me on LinkedIn.
So there was this girl, it was around, I think, spring of last year, and I was going through my LinkedIn, and there was this girl dancing randomly on...
Like me? Or someone else?
I think you.
It was me? I don't dance.
On Georgia Tech's Tech Green, the lawn. And I was like, what is this girl doing? I was like, fine, it's just an outlier on LinkedIn. Because who posts such things on LinkedIn, right?
True.
But then 2 weeks later, I see another post from this girl, and she is like, guys, come, enjoy 30 seconds with me. And in that 30 seconds, she's just sitting there, doing nothing, and we're supposed to be with her. I was like, this is really interesting. I found it weird and interesting.
I am weird.
And interesting. But the funny part is I did spend those 30 seconds with you, and it did make me feel a bit calm, a bit centered, because that was a very rough phase in my life.
Yeah, I remember we talked about this, yeah.
But that is the thing, like, I was like, this girl is really interesting, and then I read more about you. As I kept going through your posts, they seemed really interesting. You made really unique, independent, and very clear opinions on LinkedIn. I was like, I have to meet this girl. As I read more about you, I found out about your mental health startup, which is called FullCircle. And I actually went to FullCircle's Discord channel. And I was like, guys, I just need someone to like work with me together. And I was like, okay, this girl is like the CEO of the startup. Like, why would she respond to everyone? Because that's what they had promised on the Discord channel. I was like, oh, this is like so not gonna happen. But she actually responded. And
I respond. I'm sitting with you right now.
She responded, and she was like, okay, let's set a time up and we'll work together. We'll sit and just work together.
Yeah.
I just found that really amazing, and I was also like a bit taken aback. But that's how I first met Ananya, and it has been perhaps my most random, most direct and straightforward connection and friendship.
Yeah.
Yes.
This has been interesting.
Yeah. And as I've gotten to know you more, both online and offline, I was like, there's no way I can not include you in my show. Your views are too fascinating, and so is your work to be ignored.
Okay. I see.
And
I'm here for the entertainment.
And hence, now we are here sitting, it's not even sunrise, and we have woken up at 5 a.m. to do this.
He woke me up at 5 a.m. to do this.
And
it had better be good.
And I walked in the dark, I was so scared, but yeah, we did that, and now we are here. So let's begin. I'll start with FullCircle. What I found fascinating about FullCircle is the full circular journey it has had. I was looking at your TED Talk, and there you mentioned that when you were like just 12 or 13, you were going through a very low and perhaps depressing phase in your life, which fueled your creativity, and which years later led to you discovering and exploring biomimicry, which was the foundation of FullCircle, the startup. And today FullCircle is back to being a mental health startup, which initially was like the trigger point, like your depressing phase. I find this very FullCircle-y and very, it's like the universe working in mysterious ways. But could you speak a bit more about that? What was it that made, first of all, FullCircle a biomimicry startup and then a mental health startup?
I think you eventually end up in the place you're supposed to be in life. And I think that's that's been the case for me. I think you take a lot of twists and turns. I think I started biomimicry specifically because I read a lot of books growing up as a child, and so a lot of different genres of books. And so it ended up feeding into this really weird biology and mathematics intersection. But he's right, it did start from mental health for me, and now it's come back to mental health. And I do believe that we eventually end up where we're supposed to be. It seems like I have ended up where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. And that was also a very, again, a low phase in your life, the transition between this being a turbine startup to a mental health startup.
Yeah, imagine that transition.
I know you've spoken a lot about this, about you going bald, about you...
This is the first time in 2 years I have hair.
And she has beautiful hair now.
Yes, I do.
But could you speak a bit more about that phase? I know it can be a bit hard to relive all of that again, but what was it like, and what was your anchor at that point?
I think for me, the lowest phase was I had started losing hair without understanding what was going on with me. So I think for the longest time, I didn't even realize what the problem was. And I think for a lot of people, when they're all alone in a new country, trying to figure out how to survive, when you go through something like that, you feel incredibly lonely. And I think I selfishly pivoted FullCircle for myself. So I pivoted FullCircle from making turbines to making mental health tech for my own good, and eventually ended up realizing that I could help other people in the process because I was not the only one who was going through something like that. So for me, I think it's always been about finding the most authentic way to do things, and I think it has come full circle in that way. Did I answer your question?
You did. Okay. But did you not seek therapy at that point? Mm-hmm. I've heard you speak about therapy being inaccessible, maybe unaffordable, and that is an important data point for everyone because, of course, we now have begun speaking about mental health. Mm-hmm. But what people don't address is that therapy may not always work, and it's sort of still a very first world or maybe a second world resource. Mm. What was it about therapy that you thought that FullCircle was needed in spite of therapists existing?
Yeah, so I think I see two things. The first one is therapy is highly inaccessible for people like me who are broke college kids and don't have a lot of money because even if you get therapy in school, you have to go pay, which is like a very US healthcare system vibe that you have to do. And so for me, therapy was just completely inaccessible because I was struggling to pay my own bills. And I saw a lot of my friends struggle too. The second thing is, the reason I started FullCircle is because I quickly realized basic mathematics that therapy is a supply chain problem. If you think about it, everyone will need a therapist because everyone goes through a mental health problem at some time in their life. So unless you create a world where you have enough therapists to cater to the demands and the mental health needs of every single other person in the world, you're never going to actually solve the mental health problem. It's a huge supply chain problem.
Right.
The number of therapists and the number of people who need help is completely mismatched. There's a huge shortage of therapists.
True.
So I have nothing against therapy at all. I think it works fantastically and it works wonders for some people. I think for me in that situation and for a lot of broke college kids and Gen Z, they think about mental health very differently. They have very different demands, financially speaking.
True.
So, yeah, I think there was a huge demand for FullCircle, and we've seen that surge over the years. But, yeah, I think one of the things that I've struggled with is that mental health is only seen through the lens of therapy or very clinical solutions, whereas there's a whole spectrum of mental health, right?
True.
And so, yeah, that's why.
Yeah, and as you said, therapy and these kind of resources can coexist.
Yeah.
As they should.
Yeah.
Right. And another interesting thing that will always stay with me, which is what you have said and which is what FullCircle is built on, is that your story can become someone else's guiding light.
Right.
Could you speak a bit more about that? How did that come to become the motto of FullCircle?
Yeah. So when I lost all my hair, so I was completely bald at 19 years old because of my mental health. I was extremely stressed. And like I said, I didn't know what was going on with me. And so I eventually ended up meeting a couple of law school students. When I had posted about it on LinkedIn and was like, I'm losing all my hair, I struggled with this, they reached out to me and said, we had gone through something similar, and had you not mentioned what you had gone through, we would not have felt the way we feel now about our mental health. And so consistently over LinkedIn and on other social media platforms, I've shared my mental health story, and I think I've seen how much it's helped other people, because a lot of people don't talk about what goes on in their life and what goes on with their mental health, even though it's a very organic and natural discussion to have. It's just like physical health. So I think your life story can really help someone else, because it can make them feel less alone in what they're going through right now. I remember when I lost all my hair, I felt like I was going crazy, because I was like, who at 19 years old goes bald?
It's a scary thing to happen.
Yeah, and I think you've seen me.
I've seen pictures.
Yeah, you've seen pictures of me. Yeah, it was not good.
Yeah. And I can vouch for this, because I have been a part of FullCircle as a user. And there have been times where someone is going through the exact same thing that you are going through.
It's heartening, isn't it?
It is heartening. In a very tragic way, of course, sometimes. It's like, okay, you all are facing issues, but you're not alone.
True.
And this is when I was using FullCircle back in June 2021. What does FullCircle look like right now? Is there a Discord channel? Is there an app? If I am going through something, how do I connect to FullCircle? So
FullCircle's website is live. You can sign up and, of course, join the Discord. And the next app iteration is going to come out in the next few months. So you'll be able to use FullCircle then. But I think what we quickly realize with mental health is that loneliness is the root cause of most of the mental health issues today. And like you said, it's heartening to see someone else who struggled and gone through the same things as you come out on the other side, and they can help you and guide you in ways that maybe other people cannot. There's a different level of connection where people have gone through similar things and then they are able to talk about it more authentically. And so FullCircle now looks like small communities of people who connect on the basis of shared past life struggles, but then also sense of humor, which is what both of us share. But then other things also. So that's what FullCircle is now.
Amazing. That sounds really good. Having a startup in a completely foreign country, as an immigrant, as a girl, as a 22-year-old, it can't get more difficult than that. Do you sometimes feel like people, especially the people you collaborate with professionally, do not take you seriously?
I think it's not a problem about being taken seriously. I do think that majority of my time is spent in rooms where I'm probably the youngest looking person, and I show up looking like this in a white shirt and white pajamas and fuzzy socks.
White,
so I don't think it always is easy being the youngest, most inexperienced person professionally in a room where you're surrounded by people who are like 60 years old or like 50 years old. So I think that's tough. I think people take you seriously if you produce outcomes, which has been my experience with people so far, at least in the tech world. So I don't think age is a barrier. I don't think gender is that much of a barrier anymore. I do think there are problems with the venture capital industry and the engineering industry separately for women. But I do think by and large, things do get hard. But I think if you were able to produce outcomes in a certain way, things work out in your favor. It is hard sometimes to have a conversation, though, I will admit.
I see.
Yeah.
But I think we need more people like you to break those glass ceilings.
More people like you, bestie.
Yeah, to showcase everyone that there are people who can break glass ceilings. And I have seen a lot of posts that you write on LinkedIn about how you approach your professional life. How you approach and navigate this extremely male-dominated industry. How do you decide what goes on LinkedIn? Do you have a schedule? What you write? Do you have a routine? Because it's really fascinating. Every time I open LinkedIn and if there's a post by her, it shows at the top of my feed.
I have hacked the algorithm.
And I have saved so many of your posts. I was like, this will come handy to me someday.
Yeah.
It's almost like a manual. I think someone should publish like a book of all your LinkedIn posts and then make a life manual, professional life manual out of it.
So I don't have a schedule. I think if I had a schedule and if I planned my LinkedIn posts, I don't think they would sound the way they do. So I post every thrice a week sometimes, sometimes twice a week. But I think by and large, my LinkedIn strategy is just being completely honest and transparent about what's going on in my life, and then also being helpful in some way. I don't want to post on social media just for the hell of posting on social media. I do that on TikTok, I will admit. I post the most random things on TikTok, but I think on LinkedIn specifically and on Twitter, LinkedIn mostly, I want to post things that will help people down the line, because I made some huge mistakes, which sometimes looking back is very interesting. So it's always nice to be able to like look back at my own posts, like from a year ago, from 2 years ago, and think, hey, come a long way from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that story again can become someone else's guiding light.
True.
So you see the motto everywhere.
Yes.
But a lot of interesting stuff happens with Ananya on LinkedIn. I love how you take people who need to be taken down, you take them down.
Yeah.
I remember there was this one post where someone was mocking people who write posts like, I'm happy to announce that I joined X and X. Like very short posts about just a celebration of their professional milestone. And someone was mocking that. And what you wrote there almost brought tears to my eyes. You made a comment that all people's journeys look very different. I'll put up the exact screenshot on the on the show, but you said something along those lines, and you told how you can never know what someone is going through, how someone has reached the milestone they have reached, and how we shouldn't shit on other people's happiness if it doesn't harm us. So that was really heartening. Do you think we need to stop doing this? We need to start celebrating more and more?
Yeah, I think for me, my life has looked really up and down, and I think when I see other people bringing down, posts like that one, I think it brings. I think it becomes really hard for me to sit back and say nothing, because I have created a bit of a platform for myself, a very small platform and a niche on LinkedIn. And I really think that people should be able to unapologetically celebrate what they've achieved, because life is really hard for everyone. I mean, it's hard for you too. It's been incredibly hard for me. And so if someone is celebrating on LinkedIn, I would say if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. And then take your negativity elsewhere. Because even if it's a very small achievement like a certificate that someone's achieved, and people are trying to mock that by saying, what are you doing posting about this? I think it's incredibly low on empathy, because you have no idea what their journey could have looked like. For me specifically, I'm an immigrant. I started from the very bottom, mopping floors and whatnot. And so I think, let people celebrate what they have to.
You've also been one of the few voices who have been a critic of the hustle culture.
Oh, yeah.
No. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the hustle culture. We wake up at 5 a.m. to do this, but this is something we really love. But the toxic hustle culture, it's like startup porn, like...
I've heard that.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I really don't know what to say about hustle culture anymore. I think my posts have become hugely a satire on hustle culture, and how, people just... Sometimes I think they get caught up in this motivational BS where they're like, okay, we have to grind every single day and that's what's going to get us outcomes. I mean, I wake up at noon sometimes on a Monday and don't do any work till 3 p.m. Some Tuesdays I don't work at all. And I still manage to get some stuff done. Otherwise, I won't be sitting here.
I agree.
So I think there has to be a balance in life, and I think what we lack, especially in startups and in the tech world, and you know this is right, is balance.
Yeah.
There's a lot of unbalanced people, and I think when they post about hustling and grinding, it really gets to me because it can be really bad for your mental health.
Yeah.
There's a lot of motivational videos on YouTube also that are like, you should hustle and grind, those like workout BS. It's like, your ex left you, channel that pain. And it's like, pain will only take you so far. At some point, the pain is going to go away and you're going to have to find a more positive way to channel your energy.
More holistic.
A more wholesome way to do things. And so...
Like you mentioned balance.
Yes, balance.
She's been, again, one of the few voices who has championed 9 to 5 jobs for people who make it as their choice. I really like that because the way 9 to 5 jobs have been demonized, and people have been like, sort of, people who do that have been condescended into being called as lazy or ordinary or average. Could you speak a bit more about that? Why do you think we shouldn't demonize 9 to 5 jobs?
I mean, I think 9 to 5 jobs are incredible. You know how hard it is to get a job these days?
Exactly, in the first place.
Yeah, and I do think for some people, you know, a stable paycheck, paying for their families, paying for their children. I mean, you have bills to pay.
Yeah.
Not everyone can afford to have the
hustle.
I mean, not everyone can afford to take a risk and like start a startup. And I think a lot of people in the startup and the tech industry think that startups are the pinnacle or running a company is the pinnacle. I sit here every morning as a startup founder and I have to sort of like grind, 17, 18-hour days and travel three times a week. And it's not a fancy lifestyle. I mean, eventually it could yield returns, but it could also go downhill.
Yeah.
And so for people who need a stable paycheck, what is wrong with a 9 to 5 job? I think it's a perfectly reasonable thing to do.
Yeah, I don't think, I'm a huge fan of the 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
After I've started doing it, it gives me time to do this.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
But amidst all of this being independent and your own voice on LinkedIn, you commented on some people who are really famous and very influential. Do you sometimes feel like you're burning your bridges? Maybe you're jeopardizing your networks, and this will someday come back to bite you?
You know what? It's really interesting because I know the exact person he's talking about, and I bet he'll put a screenshot right here.
It's up to you. If you want, you can mention his name.
No. We're fine.
Yeah.
He's not Voldemort. He who must not be mentioned.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is true that I have taken down quite a few people and gotten into arguments on LinkedIn with a few people about things they say. But I do think I only pick the battles that I really want to fight. And there are some battles that I will not let happen the way they are. And so the only reason I've picked up a fight with those people on LinkedIn and on other social media platforms is because they're saying things that are actually hurting other people's lives. And so, for example, if you post the screenshot here, it'll make sense what I'm trying to talk about. The creator economy is largely run by women.
So just to give more context, there was this post about this really influential person who hosts podcasts and stuff. So he had made a comment saying that
I wish more people were
creators.
I wish more people were scientists instead of being creator or
influencers. Which really used the word influencers in a very derogatory manner, as if, of course, being scientists is a great thing, but being influencers, I think you should take this up.
Yeah, if you look at my comment, there's like a huge list of comments that I've responded to in that thread. But I think most importantly, it is that, creators, mostly sometimes women find a lot of help being on social media and being creators and influencers. And it's a stable source of income for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so for him to come around and talk about things in a very black and white way without giving any context is also incredibly harmful. So I think for me, I know a lot of creators who work incredibly hard to get where they are. I'm not one of them because I have other things going on, but I've seen other people go through the struggle of trying to make it as an influencer or creator. And I think, as someone who's my friend, I want to take a firm stance for my friends, and I think having a backbone is incredibly important. So for me, I really couldn't sit back and watch that happen. I think I had to say something, and I did. But coming to burning bridges, I think a lot of people like you, we got in touch, and we have stayed in touch because I'm honest.
Yeah.
And I'm authentic.
Genuine, yeah.
Because if I weren't that, then I won't be me. And I think for a lot of people, they think that if I pick up a fight, I'm burning a bridge.
Right.
I think if you have a debate in a reasonable fashion, there is no reason to burn a bridge.
True.
Of course, if you make some really obnoxious points here, then it makes no sense. But I think it's okay to have a healthy debate on social media and otherwise.
Yeah, and your comments were always dignified.
Yeah, I was not personally.
Yeah, oh, not at all. And people were being really tangential, but you have always been really dignified and authentic, but also courageous, because it like in your heart, you know you're not burning bridges, but we don't know how other people might take it. Where does that courage come from? Have you always been this courageous since childhood, or did events and experiences shape you this way?
Yeah, I think I've seen my mom go through the struggle that she has early on in life, and I think that shaped the way I think about life in some ways. But I think now that I'm an immigrant in a different country, that comes with its own unique set of challenges. And I think if I don't speak up for myself or speak up for my friends, then I'm putting myself in a bad spot. And so I think it comes more from a place of thinking really deeply about the kind of relationships I want to have in my life and the kinds that I don't. Because I think if you burn a bridge that is really toxic, then that's not really a net negative, it's a net positive. And I think we've talked about this many times. So it's okay to burn some bridges.
And talking of burning some bridges, something that's been very hard for me, and I keep asking her how she does this.
He keeps asking me and he does nothing.
She's like my good mentor in so many ways.
No, I am not. You're the same age. You're older than me.
I'm older than you, but again, we discussed that age is no longer a barrier. But coming back to that, you have this thing where you delete people off your friends list. I tried to delete one person.
And he kept this person on Instagram.
Yeah, like I deleted
that's not deleting
people. Unfollowing someone on Instagram is so cruel. Like I deleted that person's phone number, but they're still on my Instagram. I still follow them. They follow me. But tell me about this very interesting thing. You spoke about burning some toxic bridges. Were all the friends you deleted?
No, I don't think they were toxic at all. I think sometimes you just grow apart. And there are some friends you can keep in loose orbit, right? You don't have to talk to them every single week or month. But there are some times when you have to reconnect. And when there's a disconnect, when you reconnect, then you're either not putting in enough effort or they're not putting in enough effort. And then there's a disconnect. And I think there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I think we need to move apart for a while and then come back in the future if things make sense. But I think if you keep getting people in loose orbits, then you end up in this really weird situation where you don't have any really close friends or you really don't know who your friend is and who isn't. And I think it's incredibly important to have clarity in life. I've always advocated to have a very clean and clear life. I wear white every single day. And I highly advocate having really clear-cut relationships and friendships where the definition of what you are and who you are is clearly defined. And so for friendships that I'm not contributing enough to, I walk out from. It's not just one way where if someone is not contributing to me or to the friendship that we have, that I will say, hey, I want to move away. I also actively state that if you are not putting in enough effort or they are putting in much more effort than you are, that you actively take a step back and say, hey, I'm not able to put as much effort as you are in this friendship. And while you're okay with this being imbalanced, I'm not. So I'm going to take a step back for my own sake and for the sake of not burning any bridges with you, because it's very important to be mature in both aspects. You can't just expect one person to walk away. You have to be equally okay with you taking the step back if you're not contributing enough.
Makes
and
sense.
I think that's important. Having clarity in life is very important.
That's really interesting. And I'm sure this has evolved over the years.
Yes.
I'm sure you have evolved as a person.
Absolutely.
You mentioned to me a few days ago that your life is moving at a really fast pace these days. And there was this LinkedIn post where I think, are you afraid what I'm going to ask next?
No, go ahead. Let's see how this goes.
Okay. So, and there
you
was
already know everything about my life.
Yeah, but the audience doesn't. But there was this LinkedIn post where you mentioned that sometimes life goes so fast and you see an evolution coming. It feels like a revolution coming, but you see that you're going to change in the next few months, or you're going to discard things that don't work for you anymore. You mentioned that you saw one of these changes coming in February.
Yes,
this
it's
year.
the end of Feb now.
It's the end of Feb. Has that come? Or
Has the evolution happened? Yes, the evolution has happened.
yeah, did it happen yesterday at 12 a.m.?
Yes. It was scheduled, and now it has happened. No, I'm serious. I think for me, you quickly realize that you're growing out of your old self and sometimes evolving into a new person. And I think over the years, the timeline in which that evolution has happened has decreased for me, which also means that I'm accelerating
Really
in
fast.
growth. But it also means sometimes that it's painful. It's sometimes painful watching yourself go through rapid iterations in life and evolve into a better person by and large, from what I believe to be right. But I think sometimes it also comes with growing out of certain relationships and growing out of certain habits that you've developed over the years. And for me, that I was well aware that one of the transitions was supposed to happen this year at the end of Feb, because everything had been building up to this moment and I could feel it happen. So I think, yes, the evolution has started. It's not fully completed, but I think by and large, over the next few months, life is going to change for me. There's going to be a few dramatic changes internally, things that I don't always talk about publicly. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, that does happen. That does tend to happen.
I see. I'll go back to something we talked before, how you were answering every single person on the Discord channel on FullCircle.
Yeah.
Your phone number, your personal phone number, which I message you on WhatsApp, that is public.
Yes.
Your email ID is, of course, public. You've mentioned in previous podcasts that there have been times where people have called you, like there have been 100 people calling you in a week or something, or even more than that. And when a lot of them, I'm sure, reach out to you when they are at their most vulnerable self, going through perhaps their lowest phase. And as someone who has resolved to be there for everyone, you have to give enough and equal attention to everyone, be a good listener. In some cases, if they are seeking more than a listener, like you may have to give out advice, I'm not sure. All this requires you to be extremely, like your emotional bucket must be getting emptied so much. Does all of this take a toll on you sometimes?
So I think one of the important things to mention is I never give people advice.
Okay.
I actively shy away from like giving anyone any advice because I think most people don't need advice. Most people actually just need a hug.
Right.
And I firmly believe that. So for me, all I have to do, and yes, it does get intensive to sometimes listen to so many people over like a very short span of time, because they all come in a very vulnerable state. But I do think that what ends up happening is there's this weird switch where they come to me looking for advice, and I say, I'm never going to give you advice. What I am going to do is listen really carefully to what you're saying, because I sometimes feel like people have not even been heard properly. And so for me, what becomes incredibly important is to give them the full attention that they deserve. And at the end of the call, I have not given any advice. All I've done is listen to them and maybe given them one or two sort of like directions to think about. And that's it. And I think that's what most friendships are. So I'm not looking for anything in these conversations. I'm not looking to give advice. I'm not looking to gain anything out of it. All I'm looking to do is say, hey, this is what my own experience has been like in life. I can tell you about it and maybe it helps you. So there's no advice giving element here. It's just a conversation. It's an authentic conversation between two people who happen to connect over the phone.
I'm glad you brought this up because a lot of people already sort of know what they want to do or what they could do. All they need is a ear. All they need is
support.
And someone to like just hear them out. But that's amazing that you do that. Hats off. That is incredible. Now let me grab this because I've forgotten my next question.
Yes. Take your time.
Okay, a very interesting thing.
Yes.
Again, something about LinkedIn and what she posts. There's something called as AJ's rulebook.
Oh.
There are 16 slides and I can link this in the description below. Tell me about this rulebook. How did it come up? Why were these 16 specific rules chosen. You don't have to like go into each of them, but like in short. And which is your favorite rule right now?
My favorite rule is never end up in a fight with someone on an empty stomach.
Always carry chocolate.
Always have chocolate. And I think this specifically comes from my arguments with my co-founder sometimes, where sometimes he pauses and he looks at me and he's like, so have you had food today? If not, why don't you grab yourself a bar of chocolate and let's have this conversation in 5 minutes. And what eventually I realized is that he was doing this consistently over many, many months now.
Wow.
And
Smart
then
guy.
yeah, very smart guy. And I quickly realized that this was something that he had come up with because I would be really irritable on an empty stomach.
Yeah.
So some of the rules come from other people.
You mentioned that sometimes you are on an empty stomach and your founder is like, have you eaten?
Yeah.
So she does something really interesting, which scares me to no end. Amongst many other things she does, but this is something which really scares me. She eats dinner every day at 6:30 or something.
Yeah, that's when you usually eat dinner.
No, you don't.
This guy eats dinner at 10 p.m. Who eats dinner at 10 p.m.?
I get hungry.
I don't know how he digests his food.
So on Friday...
And he looks like this.
We met on Friday, right?
We met on Friday.
Yeah, and we had dinner like at
Yesterday
5:30.
was Friday.
Yesterday was Saturday.
Oh.
She never knows what day it is. Okay, so we met on Friday and we had dinner at 6:30 and you gave me a challenge. I took it upon myself that let's see how long I last. And I couldn't. I had to wake up at 3 a.m. and have oats and milk. Whereas this girl, every Friday she has dinner at 6:30.
Yeah.
And the next meal she has or next bite she has is on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Which means she fasts for more than 24 hours.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned that sometimes that brings you to your knees.
It does.
And you wouldn't want to mess with her, especially professionally, on those Saturdays.
Yeah.
I'm sure Ankit, her co-founder, knows this very well. Could you speak a bit more about this fasting thing?
Yeah, I think I started the fasting when I recovered from like my hair situation back a few years ago. And I did it because I realized that I was eating more salt in the US than anything else. And so I'm extremely health conscious, so I was able to control my sugar levels because when you eat out, you'd usually you can skip dessert or you know how much sugar you're taking. But what I didn't realize in the US is the amount of salt they put in everything, even in basic milk products, dairy products, and other things. So for me, it was a huge adjustment, and I think I started the fast more as a coping mechanism to deal with the dietary restrictions that I wanted to maintain. But then I quickly ended up realizing that the fast was doing some interesting things for me, where it was giving me clarity of thought because I had to deliberately slow down on my fast days. When my life was moving really fast throughout the week, I had no choice but to sit down on Saturday and really think about what I wanted to devote my energy to. Because you have limited energy, so you really think about how you're going to spend it. And I quickly ended up realizing that there were a few friends and people that I genuinely did not want to see on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And it became like this pointer in life where the fast became almost like a guiding light to seeing what worked and what didn't work for me. And yes, it is scary sometimes for me also when it's like Sunday morning, 3 a.m. and I'm getting really hungry. And I'm especially when I'm traveling over the weekend for work, it can get really hectic. But I think there's a huge benefit of fasting and meditating. And I've seen the benefit over time. I gave myself some time to see the benefits, and I've been doing this for 2.5 years now.
Wow.
Took a little bit of a break in between.
Right.
And I've come back to it now in a more rigorous form, to a next level. But I think fasting has been good for me, by and large. I'm yet to see. I said I'll give myself 5 years. It's been 2.5 right now.
And you meditate also on Saturdays.
Yes.
For how long?
So usually it's about 30 minutes.
Okay.
But it varies.
Right. Amidst all this hustle, bustle, incessant traveling, being there for everyone, working perhaps all day,
Yes.
being away from your family, thousands of miles away. I asked you when did
You want to make me cry right now?
when did you last visit India, and she was like, I don't remember.
Yeah, I really don't remember the last time I was in India.
This is such a non-mainstream path, and you have to work in a lot of isolation. And as I said, being away from everyone, does it ever get lonely?
What are you for? What are you for?
No, I'll always be there, but like, it's like they say that it's very lonely at the top.
I am nowhere close to the top, just by the way.
So what will happen when you get to the top? No, but jokes apart, like does it like get lonely sometimes? You feel like this is too isolating a journey.
Yes, it does get lonely. But I have some fantastic friends. I think I made some friends over the past few years who have, like you, who are okay with my vibe, who are the same kind of vibe as me, and I think I can call them up. They're my 3 a.m. friends, right?
Yeah.
I think with Rohit also specifically, when I first started changing, it's a very short story, when I first started changing my WhatsApp profile pictures, I didn't want anyone to notice. So I was doing it at a very odd hour in the day because I thought everyone would be at work that time. This guy, however, got wind of it and he's like, what are you doing changing your profile pictures
so many, yeah.
So there are friends I've made who make it seem like the path is not as lonely as I thought it would be. I also think as an introvert, I found COVID surprisingly hard because I was like, I love not having people around me, and then I was
COVID
like,
struck.
And then COVID happened, and I was like, maybe let's reconsider that for a minute. Because I like hugs.
Yeah.
I miss hugs. I don't get enough hugs. No amount of hugs is enough for me. I will constantly be hug deprived and #lonely. But other than that, I think we're fine.
I think there's a really sweet feature on FullCircle where
I told you I made FullCircle for myself.
where if you press a button, if you feel like you need love and warmth and hugs, you press a button and you get like vibrations.
Yes.
That sounds so wrong, but like, yeah.
Stop it.
Could you correct it for me and like elaborate and explain it?
There's just a hug button where if you press the hug button, you like your phone vibrates in your hand for a minute.
Oh, that's so
Please don't use it for the wrong purpose.
Oh God. Okay. I was going through your TED talk, and I know we haven't spoken a lot about your past life because a lot of other podcasts have covered those. You can watch those. I'm promoting those. You went through a lot of family issues, childhood issues. Then there was this whole grueling phase of your undergrad, your extreme mental health problems, and then like building the startup from scratch, throwing everything away, throwing all the safety nets away, and building this from scratch, navigating this crazy world every single day. Do you sometimes look back and pat yourself on the back, thinking how far you've come?
No, I have you to pat me on the back for that.
Yeah.
No, but in all honesty, I think I'm a bit hard on myself sometimes.
Oh.
But now that you bring it up, yes, I am. I won't say I'm proud. I would say like I'm content. And I don't think like proud is a nice word.
Okay, yeah.
And I think it's taken me a long time to get here. I think people look at me right now and they're like, how is this girl always hugging people and laughing and jumping around?
Exactly, which is, I was like, this is a very hard journey. Like, I don't think I could do it.
Yeah.
I love my 9 to 5 job.
But I think you're happy where you are.
Exactly. But that's amazing that you can look back at yourself.
But it's come at a cost. It's come at a cost. And I think there are things that I've sacrificed I'm content with sacrificing. But I think by and large when people look at me now, what they don't see is those many, many years behind me that have been extremely hard.
Yeah.
And they're still hard. Like life is still hard. It's not smooth sailing for me by all means. I'm still very young. But by and large, I'm happy where I am and I'm content with where I am. And let's see how this goes.
That's amazing. Any message to people like me or anyone in general who wants to give a helping hand to FullCircle, but they don't know how?
Join FullCircle and give people hugs.
Okay. I would be totally up for that.
Yes. Press those buttons.
Press those buttons.
But I think FullCircle has grown largely because as an immigrant, I think for me, there's a lot of people who've helped me without expecting anything in return. And I think karma is a big thing. Karma. जो कर्म करोगे वही कर्म. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something of that sort. But I think for me that has happened, and I think I don't expect anything from anyone when I give them help. So I think that comes back in many different ways, and it has in my life. So yeah.
I see. And what's next for FullCircle or for Ananya?
Ananya is going to make some chai, which this guy has not made for me.
I don't consume caffeine. And she questioned my Indianness. She was
This
like, what
guy
kind
is
of
not Indian enough. How
on.
can you be Indian and not have chai?
That
is an atrocity.
No, like caffeine is just like, it fucks me up, but yeah. Apart from chai, where do you see FullCircle maybe in the next 5 years? People hate to answer such questions, but if you are willing to.
I don't have enough data to predict what's going to happen in the next 5 years, but I do think FullCircle will be, hopefully, still in its growth phase. It'll be growing, and I'll be growing along with FullCircle. And I think FullCircle is poised to take on the online community issue in both Web 2 and 3. So it'll continuously evolve as time goes. But I think making a prediction 5 years out, I mean, every time I made a 5-year prediction on a show, it's always turned out to be wrong.
Yeah.
Because what was I doing 5 years ago? I had just started out in the US, and so I could never have predicted that I'd be sitting here with you.
Yeah.
So I don't think my predictions are going to be very right.
Which is the best part, because the uncertainty keeps you on your toes.
Yes, it also keeps you up at night sometimes.
But Ananya, thank you so much. And thank you for being such a huge champion and for encouraging me so much.
Absolutely. What are friends for? I'm like the biggest pom-pom holder. They're like, yay, Rohit, go!
Here's to many more years.
Yeah.
And to many more shows, and a huge, stupendous success for FullCircle.
Yeah, huge, stupendous success with like this show.
Thank you, and thank you so much for joining us. See you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.